Right, and Shiites are about 10 to 15% of global Muslim community, and they are fighting a war. This is kind of like the Nazis and the Soviets fighting it out in Spain during the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s. So we have Al-Qaeda and many other Sunni Islamist groups fighting the Syrian regime, which is led by the Assad family, which is an Alawite family. That's kind of an offshoot of Shiism. So they're considered by many Sunnis to be apostates or infidels. And the Assad regime, although it's Alawite dominated, it also includes some Sunnis, Druze, some Kurds, some of the small Christian community also. And then most Syrians are really caught in the middle between these two Islamist totalitarian forces.
And is Iran funding and sending troops to the Shia side, whether it be ISIS, whether it be Al-Qaeda?
Well, Iran did support Al-Qaeda indirectly. For instance, of the at least 8 of the 9/11 hijackers crossed Iran and didn't have their passport stamped, showing that they'd been in Iran, because Iran had cultivated Al-Qaeda as a possible stick to hit the U.S., Saudi Arabia, and its Sunni Arab allies. Also, there were a lot of Egyptians in the group, and Iran historically has tried to overthrow the pro-American Mubarak regime in Egypt. So early on, there was indirect support. In fact, Hezbollah, which is Iran's stalking horse in Lebanon, Hezbollah bomb makers, according to the 9/11 Commission report, helped train Al-Qaeda bomb makers, and that's one reason why Al-Qaeda became so dangerous in the 1990s. But since then, Iran has clashed with Al-Qaeda, especially in Iraq. Iran supports the Shia-dominated government in Baghdad, which Al-Qaeda in Iraq wanted to overthrow. And then that organization, Al-Qaeda in Iraq, later spread to Syria and became ISIS, or the Islamic State.
All right, final question. Wall Street Journal today said, hey, if you want to put Tehran on notice, here's the best way. Instruct the Pentagon to update contingency plans for the use of force against Iran, including nuclear. What do you think?
Well, that will definitely get Iran's attention.
What should we do?
I think they're constantly updating plans. I'm not sure that the U.S. should use a nuclear weapon against Iran, or even threaten to do it publicly, because that would drive up the perceived value of having a nuclear deterrent in Iran. But it is important to note that Secretary of Defense Mattis, when he was a commander in the Middle East, CENTCOM, he advocated striking back against Iranian Revolutionary Guards that were helping Shiite militias in Iraq kill American soldiers. He recommended striking at the Revolutionary Guard bases inside Iran, and I think the Iranians know that, so I think that's likely to give them a pause.
And whenever we think about nuclear, we think about Japan, we think about the hydrogen bomb, but smaller nuclear strikes, is that any part of the military equation?
I think it could be, especially if the U.S. ever went to war with Russia or China and they used nuclear weapons, then I think all taboos will be broken. weaken and the gloves would come off, especially tactical nuclear strikes. But I don't think the U.S. would have to use a nuclear weapon to really destroy Iran's military power. I think airstrikes could do that substantially without using nuclear weapons.
Jim Phillips can't do this conversation without you. I know you're busy. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
But think about what we're thinking about here. We got Trump lashing out at North Carolina, North Korea. We got him lashing out at Iran and a number of others. Are we heading for war in this country?
CBS News update. The White House says President Trump did warn Mexico's president about bad hombres in a phone call. He also had what's described as a tough call with Australia's Prime Minister.
When you hear about the tough phone calls I'm having, don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. They're tough. We have to be tough. It's time we're going to be a little tough, folks.
Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull says there was disagreement over a deal that calls for Muslim refugees rejected by Australia to be resettled in the U.S.
It was not a deal that he would have done, but will he commit to honour the deal? And he's given that commitment.
Mr. Trump made his comments today at a national prayer breakfast.
In the coming days, we will develop a system to help ensure that those admitted into our country fully embrace our values of religious and personal liberty, and that they reject any form of oppression and discrimination.
CBS News update. I'm Steve Caton.
From our Latter